Hi everybody, welcome to today's Teachers Tips for WHS405. Firstly, I'd like to just apologise for the delay with the session, but training for teachers came up and I had to delay it by 1 hour. Just a little bit of housekeeping. I just point out to you today's session will be recorded and then uploaded onto YouTube. Also, if you're attending, if you could go to the chat box, put your first name and student number, that will allow us to record that you've attended the session. In the bullet points that are on the first slide, we encourage you, if you're uncomfortable about preparing your assessment, that you use the Word document for this assessment and put your answers directly underneath it. When it comes time to choose the policy and you're not using the case study, I would ask you to remove the Appendix A1 as it confuses the marker from time to time. The aim of this session today is to help with your understanding of the questions that are within the assessment. So, by doing this assessment, the goal is for you to gain a practical understanding of a management system. Now, my colleague Chris Anthony has supplied us definitions on the PowerPoint explaining the difference between the management system, which is an ordered, systematic approach to address safety in the organisation, and he talks about the 5 key components. Second is the WHS risk management system, which is a major subset and one of the 5 key components. And the third one is a WHS information system, which organises the method of capturing and storing and retrieving all policies, procedures, programs and data encompassed within the WHS system. So an example of this at Tafe, New South Wales, that information is electronically captured, while at the local bike shop they may have a more folded, orientated manner of keeping their system under control. Now, in our first question of the assessment asks us to list and explain the key components that you would expect to find within the organisation's work health and safety system. When using 4804 to assist with your studies, some students confuse the 5 key components with the 5 elements. So this slide here will help us focus on what is required. But remember, the question does ask us not only to list, but also explain. So that's where your research needs to focus on each of these 5 areas. The next question asks us to explain the difference between a policy and a procedure. As you can see on this slide, the policy statement is the cornerstone of the system from which all other policies, procedures and programs flow. Under the principles of 4805, there's the policy, there's planning, implementation, measuring and evaluation, and then management review. The policies and procedures that can be involved in this area are listed here, where once again risk management, consultation, harassment and bullying, workers' compensation, injury management, and WHS training. It is always important that this system must be able to adapt to the changing work methods, systems and processes, and the storage of substance, plant and equipment, and a fluid workforce, the comings and goings, and what each of those workers has gained as far as knowledge and understanding. So the assessment, task 1 talks about or has 4 questions to answer. We've already reviewed the first 3, but in the 4th one, we're asked specific questions about either the Zappa policy statement or your organisation's policy statement. Make sure you clearly identify what you're using, and if it's the workplace that you've chosen, please attach that as Appendix A. Then we move on to Task 2. Task 2 has 3 identified questions. The first one is that we need to develop a WHS action plan, and this is to be marked as Appendix B. This task gives us a walk-up start, as it gives on the bottom of the assessment, we have a template for that action plan where the elements are listed down the left-hand side, and there are a couple entries at the top to give us an idea of how we complete that. It's important that you address each of those headings where we talk about the current situation, the required action, the person responsible. Now here under that, it's important that we put a name to that position, and that must be a management person on taking that responsibility. And our due dates and review dates, always put a date. This brings accountability to the person who is responsible, and it's no misunderstanding when a person sees their name, that task is normally completed in some shape or form. Under that next question, question 2, we're asked to identify 2 problems that could be foreseen in implementing the WHS action plan and explain how these could be resolved. It's important that we use possibly the case study or the fact that some incident or issue that's come up at work can easily be one of those problems. The second question we're asked there is, as the WHS coordinator, you are to play this role and would not contribute to how could you contribute to the implementation of the WHS action plan, but also facilitate and contribute to that plan? Question 3. Now, question 3 has 3 questions within that. The first one asks us to identify the process and methods you would use to measure and evaluate WHS performance. Now, 4804 is the key to answering these questions. B, describe how you would apply these methods in your action plan and review and give recommendations for improvement in the system and the performance of that system. The third point identifies communication methods that you would use to explain and review recommendations for continuous improvement of WHS management system. Now at the bottom there, we've got a tip of going into the Australian Standard 4804, looking for one of the headings of practical help where it gives objectives, targets and performance indicators. This will help with the framing of these questions. Now the resources that you can use for this assessment: the Australian Standards 4804, Section 4, your state and territories regulator, and the WHS Research Centre. Under General Tips, you'll find some really good information where one title is Identify the differences between a management system and an information system. Also, there's a PowerPoint on safety management plans. The third, the difference between a system, the policies, plan, procedures and programs that are within the system, and a PowerPoint on best practice and one on benchmarking. Now the most important slide of all is the last slide. Where to go for help and assistance. Please do not hesitate to contact a WHS teacher. Remember, we're here to help you achieve your goals. Book that 15-minute tutorial on an agreed time using the below telephone number and email address. Are there any questions? With that not being the case, thanks for listening to this, and I encourage you, when there are any issues that come up, please contact a WHS teacher. Bye for now.